Welcome to the No Regrets Leadership Podcast, where leaders are empowered to equip and disciple men.
Welcome to the No Regrets Leadership Podcast. My name is Steve Sonderman, and I am the founder and executive director of No Regrets Men's Ministry. And it's just so great to have you with us today. With this podcast, our goal is to equip you and encourage you as a leader of men. Oftentimes we'll bring in various guest speakers, authors, key thought leaders in the area of small groups or leadership development, ministry to men. But today, I'm just going to be talking to you and sharing about what does it mean to create and capture momentum. But before I get into that, I just want to let you know I just got back from a trip earlier today. I was out in the Lehigh Valley, and I just finished up last night a 5-month training experience with 3 churches out there. And we did something really new with this leadership, this 201 cohort. We started out live and did the first 2 modules. Then we did 3 modules virtually, and then we went in and did the last module live again. And it was just such great excitement in the room last night. And it's just been such a joy to work with Calvary, Salem, and Riverbend churches out there. So grateful for the leaders and what they're doing. They've really caught the vision of discipleship. And it was so fun to see them put up on the walls their ministry scorecards of how many small groups they have today, how many they want to start next year, and where they want to be in 3 years from now, and how many apprentices are going to be needed to do that. And really, our training for 201 now is really based on how to help your leaders and men start small groups for men, because it's in those relational environments where discipleship can really take place. And so if you've never been a part of our 201, I would just encourage you to do that. But I just wanted to let you know that it was just a great trip. And I appreciate your prayers and just a real fun time of working with those churches. But like I said, today we want to talk about momentum. And I think every one of you has probably seen the power of momentum, whether that's watching a rocket break free from the Earth's gravitational pull. Maybe it's your favorite team making a big play that changes the course of the game. And you see momentum and the importance of it in business. You see it in battles and in war, in sports and relationships, and really you see it in ministry. One of the keys to success in ministry is creating and then capturing momentum. And as a former coach and player, and really spent so much of my life in the sports world for so many years, I've just personally seen the importance of momentum. And as a coach, you sort of know it, you know when you have it, and you know when you don't have it. So often that's, of course, why timeouts are called and things like that, because you want to stop the momentum of another team, or you want to create some momentum for your team. So what we're going to do today is talk about what does that look like in ministry. And so let me just give you an example of what that does look like in just one little way that I've seen it over the years. But you know that for the past 32 years, we have had the No Regrets Men's Conference on the first Saturday in February. This past year, we had 20,000 men attending from 140 churches across the country. We had 125 small groups and over 15 other countries involved. What most people probably don't realize is that this conference is not meant to be just a one-day event, but rather a catalyst for lifelong change and transformation. And so to that end, every year we offer a 6-week follow-up study that the men can access for free on the No Regrets app. And in this course, this 5-week study is specifically designed as an entry-level piece. It is not a real in-depth Bible study where you're going to do exegesis and things like that. It's for the guy who maybe's never done it before. It's for the guy who's never been in a Bible study. And so 6 weeks is a great way to take that first step, because I know that the conference is a spiritual high. It's thousands and thousands of men worshiping together, hearing one fantastic talk after another. But they're just the realities of work and parenting and life can sort of take away the excitement that's generated by the conference. So as a result of that, we've created this follow-up study. And because when you get together for another 6 weeks in those meetings where you can talk about what you heard and then apply it to your life, it's where you can connect with other guys and encourage each other and pray for each other and really be there for one another. And it's through those things that allow that momentum to be captured and continued. And so what we have seen over so many years now is churches using that conference as a catalyst for lifelong change, connection, community, and application. And so that's just one way it can be done. And so what I want to do today is I want to share with you and your leadership teams some principles to keep in mind as you seek to create and capture momentum in your ministry to men. And so for today, I just have 4 simple principles that I want to share with you and then just sort of explain a little bit. Number 1 is events can be a great way to create momentum in your ministry. So I'm not saying that events are all bad, because events can be a really good thing. Now, the danger is that too many ministries that I know are event driven rather than relationship driven. And when I consult with them, when I talk with them and I meet with their leadership teams and they put out their calendar of what they're doing in the coming year, it's just sort of like it's one event after another. In October, we're doing this event. In November, we're doing this event. January is this event. And March is this event. And, they say, Steve, what do you think? Is this pretty cool? And I go, well, events have a place, but this is too much, because then events simply become, it has to be bigger and better. We have to have more glitz, more glamour. We have to have a bigger name speaker, a better musician, a better testimony. And it's always, you have to outdo yourself for the guys to come. Rather, what you want to do is develop a ministry that's based on relationships. And so when you have an event, 1 or 2, maybe 3 a year, it doesn't have to be bigger and better, because the guys are going to come because of the relationships, because they know their small group is going to be there. Their friends are going to be there. They're going to be bringing some friends and people from their sphere of influence to that event. And so what I would encourage you to do is see events as an onboarding activity. And matter of fact, as I talk to churches now, that's the way they describe them. They're thinking, okay, what are 1 or 2, 3 things we can do this year that are onboarding events? And that's what they're calling them, because they realize they're not the main event. They're not the main deal in your ministry. They're purely a way to get guys onboarded and in to your event. It's a way to get the fringe to take that first step. All right. And so that might be a fall kickoff. It might be a game dinner. It might be the No Regrets Conference, a pickleball tournament. There's lots of things you could do, but the key is not to do too many, to spread them out over the course of the year, to make sure your calendar is synced up with the church's calendar. And if you are going to do a special event to create some momentum, the first thing you do is you find someone to do it. Whenever I talk to ministries about doing something new, I say there's 4 things you want. Make sure you write these down. 4 things. Number 1, you need a point person, someone that's going to say, yeah, I'm responsible for this event. Number 2, that they develop a team, that they're not doing it by themselves, that they have 2 or 3 other people around them that are going to help them to carry it out. Third, they have a purpose, that they're very clear on the purpose of the event. The problem that so many churches and ministries run into, they're doing events and they're hoping it does everything. They're hoping that it's a little bit evangelistic and it's reaching men, but they also want to root men. They want to use it as a releasing event to get guys serving. And when you try to do too much, you don't do anything. And so I really would encourage you, and I will just urge you to say, what's the sole purpose of this event? So for example, the conference that we do every year, it's a rooting event. That's it. To take men deep, to help equip men to be godly men in their home, churches, workplace, and world. Now, are there some wings? Are there some things that happen on the side? Sure. We know that every year, literally hundreds and hundreds of guys come to faith. But that's not the main purpose of why we're doing it. Does it happen? Sure. Is there a way to train up some leaders and help some guys serve? Yeah, that happens. But we are very clear, and we know that the purpose of this is to be a rooting event. So you get a point person, they develop a team, you have a purpose, and then you have to have a plan. What's going to be the plan to carry out this event and get it done?
The No Regrets Men's Conference 2025. Live in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and around the world. Saturday, February 1st. It's one epic day of men, faith, and community. Hear from world-class speakers who will sharpen your faith, challenge your beliefs, and equip you biblically to be a fearless influencer of society. Attend in person or online at a host church, a men's small group, or individually. No Regrets Men's Conference 2025, Saturday, February 1st. Register today.
So, principle number one is that events can be a great way to create momentum in your ministry. You want to use events as an onboard to something deeper. Don't see events as an end in themselves. Principle number two, start where men are at and move them to where they need to be. Guys, here's what I want you to understand, that every man in your church and in your community is at a different place spiritually. And you can't expect them to come to an event or to an activity or to a gathering and all of a sudden be all in. You can't have something and say, okay, now we're going to do a 32-week Bible study and expect guys from the community and from your church who are on the fringe just to jump in and say, yeah, that's what we want to do. No, commitment is grown. It's grown over time. And so, for example, I know guys who would come to our men's breakfast, and we did those 9 months out of the year. I had guys who would come to those things for 4, 5, 6 years until they took the step of joining a small group because they weren't ready for that. Their commitment level wasn't there. And so you want to grow that commitment. I know of guys who have sat in church for 10, 15. I know a guy 20 years sitting under some of the best preaching in the world. And he never gave his life to Jesus. He just came. And it was literally after about 20 years of coming to church that he finally stepped over the line of faith because he wasn't there. And it just took time. And so every guy you're working with in your church and community is at a different place. And so what we need to understand is that ministry is a process. And so you want to give men the freedom just to come, to listen, and to process in a safe environment. So you have to ask yourself as a leadership team, what are some of the open doors that men might want to come through, that they might be interested in to take that first step, or the second step, or the third step? And for some guys, that might be the topic of parenting. Others, it may be the issue of marriage or finances or work or how to grow spiritually. But understanding that every man is at a different place in their spiritual journey, they have a different level of commitment, and that commitment is grown over time. Third principle I want you to take away today is this. We want to always build bridges to the next level. So here's the principle. You never do anything in your ministry unless you have a next step in place. So the last thing you want to do is spend a great deal of time and energy on an event and then not provide a next step for the men to take. So for example, I speak at a lot of men's retreats every year all over the country. And when I do a men's retreat and I'm working with a church or an organization or a denomination, whatever it is, I always have two requirements. I'll say, number one, I want you to do small groups at the retreat. Because you might have a lot of guys coming to this retreat who've never been in a small group before. And so I tell the churches, use your very best small group leaders, your facilitators, and after each of my talks for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, break them into small groups so that the guys can process what they've heard and make application into their lives. And that way, you're giving guys who've never been in a small group before an opportunity to experience just 2 or 3 times over the course of the weekend. But now they will have experienced something they've never done before. And hopefully it's a positive experience and they want to build on it and continue it after that retreat. And then the second thing I always ask the organization that's asking me is I say, I want you to start some small groups after the retreat. And so on the last day, whether that's Saturday or Sunday, whenever it is, I would say, listen, have at least 1 or 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, options of men's small groups that the guys can join, that they can sign up right there. You want to strike when the iron's hot, right? And so when they're excited and they're having that mountaintop experience of either being at the No Regrets conference or at a kickoff event or a men's retreat, get them to sign up right there. Not for 32 weeks, but just something short and sweet, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. All right. But what you're going to do then is I would encourage you to spend time brainstorming as a leadership team. Or what are the bridges you need to build in your ministry? If you're doing something evangelistic and you have some guys come to Christ, right, you don't want to leave them as orphans. You need to make sure there's a bridge for them to get grounded and started in the faith. If they're grounded, but they haven't really gone deep and rooted in Jesus, then you need to have a bridge to that. And if you do a big service event, what's the bridge for that? If you do a mission trip, what's the next bridge for that? You see what I'm saying? At every step on your spiritual pathway, you want to make sure there's a bridge to the next step in their spiritual journey. Always taking men deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the fourth principle is this, and it's very much related to what I just talked about. But whatever the bridge is that you're building, you want to make it doable. See, men have a deep-rooted fear of failure. And that's why we want to make sure the steps that we're laying out for them are something they're able to accomplish. Let me give you this illustration. If I'm standing on the top of a 20-story building and the building's on fire and I'm on the roof and there's a building that's 6 feet away that I can jump to, or there's a building 20 feet away, which one do you think I'm going to choose? Well, I'm not Carl Lewis, so I'm not doing the 20-foot one. I'm doing the 6-foot one. Even though I'm 67 and, lost a lot of my athletic ability, and some would question whether I even had any at any time, the 6 foot with a good running start is something that's doable. Well, that's the way it is in ministry. You want to give them a next step that is doable. So again, if you're doing a big service project and you've spent a couple hours helping some widows in the community, or you've done a service project, you've worked with Habitat or whatever it is, you're not going to, at the end of that, gather the guys together. Okay, the next thing we're going to want you to do is we want you to make a 1-year commitment to serving overseas in India, right? I mean, that's not the next step. The next step has to be something that's simpler, something that's doable. And so, guys, those are principles that I want you to keep in mind as you think about, as a ministry, how to create and capture momentum. Let me remind you, events can be a great way to create momentum in your ministry. Number 2, start where men are at and move them to where they need to be. Principle number 3 is you build bridges to the next level. And principle number 4, make the next step doable. Guys, events and gatherings and activities are not an end themselves, but rather a tool to be used by your leadership team to create momentum for your ministry. Once created, it's imperative that you capture that momentum and then sustain that momentum throughout the course of the year. Now, today we didn't have a chance because of time to talk about how you sustain it, so we'll make sure that we do that next time. But for right now, I want to encourage you as a leadership team to listen to this together and then talk about what do we need to do in the coming year to create momentum and to capture momentum. And I know I might be a little bit biased here, but with the conference coming up on February 1st, that might be a great first step to create some momentum for your ministry. So guys, I hope these thoughts and ideas, principles have been helpful to you. And if they have, I would encourage it. Could you please share this podcast with others, other ministry leaders in your city, in your denomination? Subscribe to it and give us some feedback on it as well. And so guys, thanks again for listening. Thank you for your commitment to ministry to men. And I just pray your blessings on you and your team. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining the No Regrets Leadership Podcast. For more information and to access past recordings, please visit www.noregretsmen.org/podcast.
Life Camp USA is a nonprofit organization that mentors young men who have lost a father due to military or law enforcement service. Life Camp USA provides an all-expenses-paid, week-long, world-class camp experience that inspires, equips, and navigates these fatherless young men through some of life's toughest moments. Life Camp USA's mentors serve grieving families by helping these sons establish healthy identities, values, character, and goals without the crucial aid of a father in their life. To learn more about Life Camp's mission, visit lifecampusa.org. Again, that's lifecampusa.org.